Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Erickson TV. Curtis here with Lauren. Hey Lauren.
Hey everybody.
Hey Lauren, there's been a lot of recent news lately about bubbles and the bursting of certain types of bubbles. One that comes to mind is of course silver and some other precious metals, and the one that's in today's headlines is oil bubbles. And you found an interesting chart which for our viewers, it's not going to be, you don't have to worry about reading the small print. It's just more looking at the visual of the graph that Lauren found.
Right. Yeah. So we've been talking a lot about bubbles, and when I saw this graph, I immediately saw that this would be very helpful to explain a whole lot of aspects of bubbles, including just the fact that they form, but also why we don't try to predict when they're going to burst or what's going to happen when they burst. Okay. What this chart shows is this is a history of home values in the United States. And they have looked at the what they call a standard house, and they've done some adjustments to deal with what a standard house is, because as we all know, houses have changed over time. And then they've also taken inflation out of the picture. Okay. So this
goes back 120 years.
Yeah, this goes all the way back to 1890. Okay. And what you can see, and so what they did is, the number over here is 100, but it doesn't matter what the number is. That doesn't make any difference. This is what a house was worth in about 1890. And so you can see this line goes like this. And what you can see is that, for the first, stretch of time, there's a lot of ups and downs. World War I hit, and then housing prices went way down for a while. And then after World War II, they came up for a while. And then for the most part, you can really see they tended to just stick along the same line there for a long, long time. This is a 50-year time span here, where if you had bought sort of the average house, after inflation, your house's value would not have gone up or down at all. So, I think there's some interesting things about this chart. One of the things that we often talk about when we talk about housing is that housing is not really an investment in the normal sense of the term. And what we mean by that is that in general, you really probably can't expect housing to make more than the rate of inflation over a very long period of time. Now, this doesn't prove that you can't make any money in real estate. Obviously, if you buy a house that's a deal for whatever set of reasons, you can make money. And then the other way that you can make money is obviously if you buy houses in a specific area where that area goes up, then you can make money. But that's what we tend to think of as being somewhat similar to speculation, like trying to pick a stock. So when we talk about investments, a house doesn't really serve that purpose. However, if somebody lives in a house for a long time, if they stay in there for a very long time, what we know as economists is that this is often a very effective way of sort of forcing people to save their money. Right. Because you might think, well, it's cheaper to rent. Hey, why don't you rent and invest the difference? Well, that's not what people are really going to do. So for a long time, a house, you can see a few little bubbles here, very small national bubbles, but for the most part...
That's the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah, the 70s and the 80s, there were some little bubbles. For the most part, a house was just something you could plunk your money in, and after you finished paying for improvements and after inflation and everything else, you really probably weren't going to lose or make any money. Now, something crazy, though, happened late 90s, 97 or 98, housing prices started going up. Dramatically. And I don't really want to get into a big political discussion here about what it is that caused this bubble to occur, but beyond any reasonable doubt, and certainly with the benefit of hindsight, this was a bubble, this line going up here, which is just completely ridiculous and totally outside of historical, nothing has happened similar to that. And then here we have a bust. And then we have somebody making a prediction about where housing prices are going to go. Yeah. I wouldn't spend a lot of time looking at that prediction, but I do want to talk here real quick about bubbles and something really important. Let's say that you were the sort of person who said, hey, houses are a bubble. You'd have been probably right. Then let's say you said, I'm going to make some money out of this. Look at the last two bubbles. They went up about this high, and then they went up about this high, and then they went right back down. I think I'll short the housing market. Right about here.
Oh, yeah.
Boy.
That would have been painful.
That really wouldn't have worked out for you. So, when we talk about all these sorts of bubbles, like right now there seems to be a bubble in commodities, or at least in gold, that doesn't mean we expect things to go down anytime soon. I mean, you never know. You could be right here. You could be right here. You can never quite be sure. And, the other thing is when something crashes, you don't know what's going to happen either. I mean, it could look like this, way over here, or it could keep going straight down. You have no idea. What we do know, what we can tell sometimes is that certain things like commodities, or like the value of houses in general, without including the improvements to the houses, they shouldn't have an expected return above zero after inflation. Yeah. So when we see them go up really fast, that means at some point in time they're going to have to go back down. But it doesn't have to be too soon,
Right.
it doesn't have to be tomorrow, and we don't know when it's going to happen. We just know when we see stuff like this happen with gold, which we have recently, which similar to houses, you know, again, not to get into politics, maybe there's a political reason why this happens, but regardless, when it goes up like this, and it can't keep going up like that forever.
And it's going to probably fall harder.
Yes. When it finally does.
To go back to its expected zero return after
Right.
inflation. That
Yes.
makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because I remember during this time that clients had this feeling that real estate was the greatest investment at mankind. And now I think when I talk to people now, they understand that real estate can and it has gone down in value. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, during the stock market crash, houses went up.
Right.
So you know, people felt like it was going pretty well. But
it's tangible. They could put get it on their arms right away. Yeah, it's interesting. So, well, thank you, Lauren. That's a great chart, and it's very interesting and illustrative about not trying to time bubbles,
right.
but also it explains how dramatic bubbles can be.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. You know, when you see it in perspective like this, going back to 1890, you know, this can't possibly make any sense. I mean, there's just no way that houses in general were worth this when they were only worth that.
Right.
And you know, I mean, it just does not make any sense. But, you know, you can't predict it either. It probably didn't make sense to me around there.
Right. And if you did buy it there and you somehow were lucky enough to sell it here, you did okay.
Right, exactly.
But that's the thing. All right, thank you, Lauren. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time on Erickson TV.
See you next time.